Good evening. I'm from a small community in southwest Nova Scotia called West Pumlico in Yarmouth County. It's a fishing community. Fishing's the backbone of the industry there and the community. And there's a story about an older lady in that community. Her husband passed away when he was 49, and she took over the fish business, buying and selling lobsters, salt fish, running a fish plant, and ran it till the age of 74. She made an important contribution to her community. The fishing business is important there economically, and having that industry continue to work on was very important. This was quite a feat, given in an industry with 99.99% men back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and as a minority language speaker, as a francophone like myself. But this is interesting and perhaps odd in that the vision of someone making this great contribution in older age seems a bit counter to some of our current thinking around our visions and our expectations of what seniors and aging is about. We are bombarded with messages, and we all know things about aging, or we believe that we do. We have beliefs around aging that are reinforced on a daily basis, that older adults are sick, getting sicker, they're dependent, they're frail, they're a nuisance, they're expensive, they're a cost, they're unhappy. These are the messages that we get bombarded with on a regular basis. I'm here to suggest that these beliefs are false, and they're myths. And I want to do some myth busting tonight with you. I want to demonstrate how these beliefs have contributed to what was discussed in the earlier video. It's ageism. It's contributed to the belief that people, once they achieve the age of 65, are one homogeneous group with all the same traits, the list that I just gave you, that they're all the same. But I believe that these are false. So there's a number of these myths, for example, around the economic and social contribution of seniors. That there are costs, there are productivity costs, they're an economic cost to us. Well, the facts don't bear that out. The facts suggest that 25% of people between 65 and 69 are still in the workforce. 25% of those are self-employed entrepreneurs, creating jobs for themselves and for other people. We also know that 25% of those as entrepreneurs, that's versus a 9% entrepreneurship rate for everyone else. We know that older adults remain productive, and we know that they make an important contribution economically by starting businesses. We know the 5-year survival rate of businesses started by people over 50 is 70% versus 28% for everyone else. We also have a myth that older workers are unproductive. BMW, the automaker, thought the same thing and thought, well, we've got to try this out. Our workforce in one of our auto plants is in mid to late 40s. So they said, let's try an experiment. They took a bunch of workers, handpicked, and put them on the same assembly line so that they were 10 years older than the average workforce, just to simulate what the future would look like 10 years in the future. And they found that for $30,000, for small investments, orthotics, rubber mats, changing the shifts a little bit, they increased productivity by 7%. And we also think we know that older adults, heaven forbid they stay in the workforce longer, they're taking a job away from someone. Probably youth, because it probably sounds a little bit worse, right? The reality is, to create youth jobs, you have to keep older workers in the workforce. And you're thinking, well, not sure I'm going to buy that one. The reality is, the phenomenon of the expectation that older workers, if they stay in the workforce, are taking jobs away from someone else, has actually been studied by economists and given a name. It's called the lump of labor fallacy. And it's the belief that there's a fixed number of jobs in the economy, and if you give it to someone, you have to take it away from someone else. That's actually true maybe at the micro level. In one business, if someone's in a job, you can't give it to someone else. But the total number of jobs in the economy is not based on how many boxes in an org chart. It's the total spending in that economy. And older adults, when they retire, take some spending out of the economy. That lower spending leads to job loss in other parts of the economy. Because when you're spending less, you're buying fewer shoes, going to the movies less, going to the restaurant less, and that's where those jobs create jobs for other people, including youth. You're thinking, well, that sounds like for an economist, probably doesn't work out in the real life in Nova Scotia. Last year in Nova Scotia, we had 7,000 retirements. If the lump of labor fallacy was indeed A truth, we have created 6,800 jobs or 6,500 jobs, or if we're conservative, 5,000 jobs. We lost 2,000 youth jobs in Nova Scotia last year. In part because these 7,000 people spent less of their discretionary funds in other parts of the economy that hire other people. If we want to create jobs for youth, we have to keep older workers in the economy. Another one of these themes around aging is people's health. Seniors are sick, getting sicker, right? We all know this. Actually, people are not living longer, sick longer. They're living healthy longer. We actually know that the Canadian Institute of Health Information is studying frailty and has shown that only 25% of people 85 and older meet the definition of frail. We actually know that people are more active. We also think we know that aging is responsible for all the healthcare spending. Well, the reality is healthcare spending has been increasing in Canada 4, 5, 6% every year for the last 10 years. The aging phenomenon, as a phenomenon, is responsible for 1% of that. We also know that seniors are cranky, right? Get crankier as it goes on. This was already shown in the video to be false. Studies show that people get happier as they get older. Actually, Dilip Jesti, who is a geriatric psychologist, mental health for older people, at University of California in San Diego, I met with him once, along with a few people in the audience here, and has done some interesting research of how we define aging, and found that we define aging by our physical health status, which during aging can be a period of decline. But also observed that our way of thinking of this is wrong. Someone's total package of their health includes their physical health, their mental health, and their psychosocial health. And those two latter things increase with older age. So if you look at the total package and measure those three things, people actually get healthier as they age. Another one of these themes as talk around aging is around people and their independence and how they live. The reality is people think, we think, oh, they're all in nursing homes and they're all, dependent. The reality is, in Nova Scotia, 93% of seniors are living in their own home or their own apartment. Some of them with health, acceptedly. But the myth that they're all in institutions and that's where everyone is headed is not accurate. And in the future, maybe less so. We have great technologies that are developing that will lead to a lot more independence for seniors. We have remote doctor's visits, remote monitoring technology, health technologies, driverless cars, ride-sharing, ride-hailing. Losing your ability to drive is actually one of the number one things that makes you lose your independence in rural Nova Scotia. But driverless cars may make a great difference there. We're also investing more in age-friendly communities. And age-friendly is not just for older people. A smooth sidewalk is good for a stroller and it's good for a walker. We're investing in the technologies, in the infrastructure and the services that will help keep people at home longer than ever. And in doing so, we'll be doing not what's just good for seniors, good for everyone else. And in case people are wondering, as the Deputy Minister of Seniors, do I get bombarded with letters from seniors? I get lots of letters from seniors. When it comes to whether or not they want to age in their home or they want to age in an institution, everyone wants to age at home. Those are the letters that we get. People are looking for more tools and more opportunity to continue to age at home as long as they can. And also, I mentioned a few technology options. I mentioned ride-sharing, ride-hailing, and e-visits, and you're thinking, or some people may be thinking, it's technology. How are technologies going to work? The quickest group of internet users right now growing is 65 to 75-year-olds. So the reality is technology adoption can be a great enabler and will help people continue to live independently. So I came to work as in the Department of Seniors, and I looked at the facts and I looked at what the public discourse was. And I compared the two, and I saw a great divide between what we think and what we know. And I said, what are we going to do about that? I did the rounds talking to seniors and seniors group, and I said, what's on your mind? And I heard one overwhelming voice in accord. We're tired of being talked about like a problem that needs to be managed. The reality is we're living 10 years longer than 50 years ago, 20 years longer than 100 years ago, and as a society, we still act like 65 is a magic day in your life, when you go from contributing to your economy, to your society, to what one senior told me was making a big sucking sound, which of course he meant consuming all the resources and being a huge problem that needs to be managed. So we said, what are we going to do about this? We can't know that this great difference between the facts and what we think we know and do nothing about it. So we decided we wanted to do something about it. We decided to come up with a plan, an action plan filled with 52 items. And they're action items about maximizing the benefits of the aging population. We said to ourselves, we're living 20 years longer than 100 years ago. Surely in there's some advantage. We're reaping the aging dividend, the payoff at the end, after a life full of investment and experience and work and family. We're taking advantage of all the benefits that longevity is giving us. And you know what? Every one of the 52 actions are good for seniors, and they're good for their province. They're good for everyone. Keeping people healthy, avoiding disease and disability, helping them live independently, helping them stay active, helping them contribute to their economy and their society is good for them, and it's good for their province. So that's the plan we embarked upon. We put Penny on the cover. She was the perfect poster child. I told her that. She said, I'm not a child any longer. But Penny exemplified what the plan is all about, taking something perceived as a challenge and turning it into an opportunity. Because Penny, when she was 62 years old, went to work for someone else. And at 62 was told, I don't think this is working out. I think you're too old. So she said, to heck with you, and went and started her own business. Right? And we called it Shift. And it's a play on words. There's a demographic shift taking place, but we need to lead a shift in thinking away from aging as a problem to be managed, and to that of an opportunity that we can maximize, that we can take advantage of. We've spent the last 100 years adding 20 years to life. What are we doing to add life to those years? So I want you to join me on this voyage, where we're going to change ageist attitudes, dispel myths. And why am I so motivated to do this? I'm designing the future I want for myself and for my children. And I want to pay back the hard work of the people who came before me. Like the older lady from Pumnicombe, her name was Mercedes d'Entremont. She was my grandmother. And we need to continue her efforts to break the barriers, create new norms, dispel the myths, reap the aging dividend. And how will we know when we've succeeded? We will know when we stop saying that people have achieved great things despite being old, and we'll say they've achieved great things because they're old. Thank you very much.